My girlfriend said, "Ryan is moving in." "No discussion," I replied. "Neither is my departure." Then I booked a truck, took my name off the lease, blocked every number they used, and stepped aside while her ex, the landlord, and late rent turned her power move into an expensive lesson. You're listening to AF Tales. This story is about a man whose girlfriend told him her ex was moving into their shared apartment and said there was no discussion. Ask yourself whether you agree with the final decision. My girlfriend told me he was moving in. She said it like she was announcing the weather. Calm, final, already decided. "There's no discussion," she told me. I looked at her for a second and answered, "Neither is my departure." At the time, she thought I was bluffing. By the end of the week, my name was off the lease, my furniture was gone, and she was learning that real life has a way of defining non-negotiable better than any speech ever could. My name is Daniel. I'm 30. I work as a logistics coordinator for a regional distribution company. My life is pretty simple. I like structure. I pay my bills on time. I track my expenses. I do not enjoy chaos showing up in my home and acting like it belongs there. My girlfriend, Tara, was 27 and worked in event marketing. We had been together a little over 2 years. We had lived together for 14 months in a downtown apartment, both our names on the lease, everything split evenly. At least that was the agreement. Tara had a strong personality. That is the polite way to say it. She was confident, loud, and very used to getting her way. Early in the relationship, I thought it was just ambition. Over time, I started to see something else. It was less about drive and more about control. Her ex, Ryan, had never fully disappeared from the background. They had dated for 3 years before she met me. According to Tara, he was emotionally stunted and could not handle her. But for someone who was supposed to be old history, his name came up often, usually as proof of how much she had grown, usually in stories where she was the one who had evolved and he was the one who had failed to keep up. That should have stood out sooner than it did. When a person keeps using an ex as a reference point, it usually means the past is not as finished as they claim. About a month before everything blew up, Tara started mentioning that Ryan was having a rough time. First it was that he and his roommate were fighting. Then it was that his roommate wanted him out. Then it became that he was on a friend's couch and did not really have anywhere stable to land. I did not think much about it because, honestly, why would I? He was her ex. It was not my problem. Then came Tuesday night. I got home from work, walked into the kitchen, and saw Tara sitting at the counter with her laptop open. She had that expression she got when she had already made a decision and was just waiting to announce it. "We need to talk," she said. I thought maybe it was about work or money or something normal. Instead, she looked at me and said, "Ryan's moving in. There's no discussion. It's temporary, so don't start." I actually laughed the first time she said it because I thought she had to be joking. She was not joking. She said he would take the spare room. She said it would only be for a couple of weeks. She said helping someone in crisis is what decent people do, and I should be mature enough to understand that. I asked the obvious question first. When was this decided? "Earlier today," she said. "Why wasn't I part of the conversation?" She rolled her eyes and said, "Because you'd make it dramatic." That was the exact second I understood what was happening. This was not a conversation. It was a declaration. She had made a decision about our shared home and informed me after the fact, and I do not live in spaces where I do not get a say. So I told her very calmly, "If he's moving in and there's no discussion, then neither is my departure." She smirked. She really thought I was bluffing. I did not yell. I did not insult her. I did not knock anything over. I just asked one more question. "When is he moving in?" "Friday," she said with a shrug. It was Tuesday. She had already told him yes. She had also apparently told him I would understand because I'm reasonable. That word again, reasonable. Sometimes reasonable just means easy to push. Sometimes it means the person in front of you assumes you will keep the peace while they do whatever they want. I asked if she had at least told him both our names were on the lease. She waved that away like it was a detail beneath her. "It's fine. The landlord loves me. Don't make it complicated." That was the moment I stopped seeing this as helping someone. It was not about compassion. It was about control. She had made the choice. She expected me to absorb it. She expected me to bend around it, so I said, okay. That got her attention for half a second. Then I added, if he's moving in Friday, I'll be out by Thursday night. She laughed again. You're being dramatic. No, I said, I'm being consistent. You said there's no discussion. I agree. She went right back to her laptop like the matter was settled. The next morning, I called the leasing office. I asked what the process was for removing myself from a joint lease. The answer was simple. Both tenants had to sign a release, and the remaining tenant had to qualify on their own or with a new co-signer or approved occupant. That was useful information. I did not share it with Tara right away. I rented a small moving truck for Thursday evening instead. Non-refundable. I also called a friend who had a spare bedroom and asked if I could stay there for a few weeks. He said yes immediately. By Wednesday night, I had boxed up most of my things from the spare room. Funny how fast a room stops feeling neutral once you know your girlfriend has promised it to her ex. Tara noticed the boxes and asked what I was doing. I told her exactly what I had told her the night before. She scoffed. You're really leaving over this? No, I said. I'm leaving because you told me I don't get a say in where I live. She tried to flip it. So you're punishing me for helping someone. I told her if she wanted to help her ex, that was her choice, but I was not going to live with him. That was when she hit me with the line people use when boundaries inconvenience them. You're insecure. Maybe. But I was not going to be homeless and insecure at the same time. By Thursday afternoon, she seemed more annoyed than worried. She still believed I had cooled off. She still believed this would turn into a fight, then a compromise, then me quietly staying in the apartment while her plan went ahead. Then at 6 o'clock, the truck pulled up outside. That changed the tone. Tara was standing by the window when she saw it. Her face shifted from irritated to confused. You actually rented a truck? Yes. For what? To move my life. She followed me downstairs, still acting like this had to be some kind of performance. The driver handed me the keys. I signed the paperwork and started loading boxes. That was when she changed tactics. Daniel, stop. This is insane. He's just staying in the spare room. I did not answer right away. I carried my desk chair down the stairs and loaded it into the truck. Then she finally said what she really meant. You're embarrassing me. That was interesting. Not, you're hurting me. Not, I don't want you to go. Embarrassing me. Which meant she had probably already told Ryan I was on board, probably painted me as mature, supportive, and unbothered. Now a moving truck was ruining the image. That tells you a lot. When someone is more upset about looking bad than doing wrong, the problem is deeper than the one moment. While I was loading the truck, she called Ryan. I could hear her pacing inside, speaking in that quiet, angry voice people use when they are trying not to sound panicked. By the third trip down, she came outside again. He doesn't have anywhere else to go. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I told her I was not stopping her from helping him. I was simply removing myself from a living situation I did not agree to. She crossed her arms. You're overreacting. It's temporary. Temporary doesn't mean optional for me, I said. Then I reminded her of one important fact. Both our names were on the lease. If Ryan moved in without approval, that could violate the agreement. She froze for a fraction of a second. He won't care, she said quickly. Maybe, I said. Maybe not. I did not threaten her. I just stated facts. By 9 that night, my side of the apartment was empty. Couch, TV, bed frame, kitchen table. All mine. All gone. The place looked smaller right away. Colder too. She stood in the middle of the living room and said, "So what, you're just abandoning me?" "No," I said. "I'm stepping aside like you asked." She hated that phrasing, probably because it was accurate. As I drove away, she sent one text, "You'll regret this." I did not answer, because here was the part she had not thought through. My name was still on the lease. Removing it was not something she could do by force of personality. It required paperwork, approval, and actual numbers. Friday was less than a day away. Ryan was still planning to move in. The landlord still had no idea what she had set in motion. Friday morning, I woke up on my friend's couch to 12 missed calls from Tara. I did not listen to the voicemails. I called the leasing office instead. I explained that I was vacating the unit and wanted to begin the process of removing myself from the lease. Then I asked a hypothetical question. What happens if an extra occupant moves in without written approval? The property manager answered immediately. That's a lease violation. It can trigger immediate notice. Interesting. I thanked her and hung up. About 10 minutes later, Tara finally stopped calling and texted instead. Ryan's here. We need to talk about the lease. I ignored it, then came another. The landlord says we both have to sign something. Still nothing from me. Then the real message showed up. Why would you call them without telling me? So she knew. She had already run into the first wall reality had put in front of her. That is the thing about unilateral decisions. They feel powerful right up until they meet paperwork. That afternoon, I sent one clean response. I'm removing myself from the lease. I won't be financially responsible for a third occupant I didn't agree to. I'll sign the release once you qualify solo or add him legally. Then I blocked her. Phone, social media, everything. Not out of anger, out of clarity. An hour later, Ryan tried calling me from an unknown number. Blocked. Then another number. Blocked. I was not going to sit through a three-way debate about an apartment I no longer lived in. By Saturday morning, mutual friends started texting me. That was how I learned Ryan did not qualify on his own. His credit was not great, and Tara did not make enough to meet the building's ratio on her income alone. The landlord had given them two options: submit proper updated paperwork or face lease termination. Since I had already started my removal process, my exit was moving forward. Tara left a long message with a mutual friend asking him to pass it along. According to her, I was sabotaging her. I was being petty. Real partners do not run at the first sign of discomfort. I had him send back one sentence. Real partners do not move their ex in without discussion. After that, I heard nothing directly, but I heard enough. Ryan was not thrilled about the paperwork. Apparently, he thought he was just crashing for a while. He did not expect credit checks, fees, and legal occupancy forms. It turns out non-negotiable feels very different when signatures are involved. For the first time since Tuesday, Tara was not controlling the situation. She was reacting to it. By Monday, the pressure had shifted entirely onto her. Ryan had moved in Friday night. Mattress on the spare room floor, 2 duffel bags, big fresh start energy. Then the leasing compliance email hit. The landlord requested updated occupant documentation within 72 hours. Fail to comply and the lease would be reviewed. That is corporate language for you are now on thin ice. At first, Tara tried to spin it. She told Ryan I had overreacted and made things messy on purpose. She said it was just paperwork. But paperwork has numbers attached to it, and numbers do not care how confident you sound. To keep the apartment, she needed to qualify a loan or add Ryan legally. That meant his credit check, income proof, application fee, and an actual commitment. Ryan did not love any of that. From what I heard, he had expected a few easy weeks, not a long-term financial tie to a downtown lease. So within 2 days of living together, they had their first real argument. Funny how crisis energy fades once rent enters the room. Midweek, I got an email directly from the property manager, not from Tara. It said Tara had submitted documents to remove me from the lease and retain the unit with an additional applicant pending approval. In other words, she needed me fully out so she could try to stabilize her side. I signed the release that same day, digitally, quietly. No extra message. That apparently shocked her more than anything else. She had expected me to stall, to hold it over her, maybe to drag things out so I had leverage. Instead, I stepped aside exactly the way I said I would. But there was another part she had not calculated. Once I came off the lease, the security deposit shifted too. Half of it was legally mine, and landlords do not just reshuffle deposits for free when tenants change mid-lease. Tara now had to come up with my portion if she wanted to keep the unit intact. Ryan, according to a friend, did not rush to cover it. By Thursday night, they were in a full argument about money. Non-negotiable had become extremely negotiable. Meanwhile, I moved into a small studio across town. It was not fancy, but it was quiet. I signed a 6-month lease, unpacked my things, and enjoyed a space where no one was making decisions over my head. The blocked numbers stayed blocked, but mutual friends kept talking. That is how I heard Tara was telling people I ran. That was interesting because I had not run. I had simply refused to share a home with her ex, and now she was learning that declarations do not override contracts. Real life signs forms. Real life checks income. Real life does not care who rolls their eyes. By the second week, her tone in the grapevine had changed from confident to strained. Ryan had been approved conditionally. His credit was weak, but Tara had pushed it through by agreeing to a higher deposit and a stricter addendum about on-time rent, which meant two things. She had to come up with my half of the deposit, and if rent was late even once, the landlord could move toward termination. That is a lot of pressure for something she had called temporary. The first rent cycle came fast. Tara had always been fine splitting rent with me, clean math, predictable income, automatic transfers. Ryan was less reliable. According to mutual friends, he was between contracts, freelance design work, a few invoices pending, that kind of explanation. Tara started venting to people about how stressed she was. She said I had left her in a difficult position. She said I could have given her more time. More time for what exactly? More time to slowly normalize the same disrespect. That is how a lot of people get trapped. The problem is obvious, but they stay because they think delaying the consequence will somehow make the decision fairer. A few weeks later, I got an unexpected call from the landlord. She asked one simple question. Have you fully vacated the premises and removed all belongings? Yes, I said. Good. We've had noise complaints and wanted to confirm you're no longer an occupant. Noise complaints. Apparently Ryan had people over. Late nights. Music. Smoking on the balcony. The same building Tara used to complain about when other tenants were loud after 10 was now sending written warnings to her door. That is the part people miss when they push a situation they insist is harmless. You do not just bring in one person. You bring in their habits, their stress, their mess, their money problems, their routines, and all the consequences attached to them. Then rent came in late. 2 days late. Under the new addendum that triggered a formal notice, Tara, according to a friend, was furious. She said the landlord was unfair. She said I had set her up for failure. I had not done anything except step away from something I did not agree to. Real life handled the rest. By the end of the month, Ryan was already talking about needing space. Apparently living together was exposing compatibility issues. Compatibility issues. They had been roommates for 4 weeks. By month 2, the whole thing stopped sounding dramatic and started sounding predictable. Tara's social media changed first. Fewer polished posts, more vague lines about growth, difficult seasons, and uncomfortable transitions. Translation: this is not going the way I pictured it. Ryan's between contracts phase lasted longer than promised. The freelance invoices did not arrive as quickly as advertised. Tara ended up fronting most of the rent that month too, and that was when their arguments got more specific. Money exposes the truth fast. She had framed him as someone she was rescuing. That story feels noble when it is short-term and romantic. It feels much less noble when utilities are due, and someone is still waiting on a payment that may or may not arrive. Apparently Tara started pushing him harder. Budget talks, job talks, timeline talks. Ryan did not like that. He had come in expecting temporary refuge, not financial accountability in an expensive apartment under a stricter lease. Then the landlord made another quiet move. After the second late rent issue, they required automatic payment enrollment under Tara's account. No more manual transfers. No more I'll send it tomorrow, just direct withdrawal. Ryan took that badly. He said he was being treated like a liability. Technically, he was. The noise complaints also did not stop. One Friday, a warning letter was taped to their door. 3 violations and the building could move toward lease termination. There is something almost funny about hearing that happen after someone confidently says there is no discussion. Real life always has a discussion. It just holds it in writing. Meanwhile, I was settled. My studio was quiet. Rent was paid early. No tension in the kitchen. No wondering who was coming through the front door. About 9 weeks after I left, I ran into Tara downtown by complete accident. She looked tired, not destroyed, just stretched thin. She looked at me and said, "So, are you happy now?" That question told me everything. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I miss you, happy now." Like this had all been some revenge plan. I told her calmly, I wasn't trying to win anything. I just refused to live in a situation I didn't agree to. She said she and Ryan were working through things. Interesting phrase. Working through. Like this was still a project she could manage if she just pushed hard enough. I did not ask for details. I did not need them. Because by then, I understood the lesson clearly. The story was not really about Ryan. It was about what happens when one person tries to turn a shared life into a one-person rulebook. About 3 months after I moved out, everything tipped, not in some huge dramatic explosion, just in the exact predictable way these things usually go. The third rent cycle under that stricter addendum came due, and this time it was not 2 days late, it was 5. That triggered a formal lease violation review. The landlord scheduled a compliance meeting, not a casual check-in, a real meeting. Tara went alone because Ryan had a client call. That detail said enough on its own. The landlord laid out the numbers: 2 prior late payments, ongoing noise complaints, multiple written warnings. They gave her 2 options: bring the account fully current and commit to 0 more violations, or begin voluntary termination to avoid a formal eviction process. Voluntary termination sounds polite. It is not. It means leave before you are forced out. Ryan did not handle that well. He blamed Tara for overreacting by adding him legally instead of letting him stay quietly. She blamed him for not contributing enough. They were both a little right and a lot wrong. That is what happens when 2 people bond over rebellion instead of responsibility. It works until the bill shows up. By the end of that week, they had broken up again. Apparently, Ryan said the living situation felt suffocating. He said Tara was becoming controlling. She told him he should be grateful she had helped him when no one else would. Gratitude does not pay rent. The final piece came in quietly. A mutual friend told me Tara was moving out. Voluntary termination signed. Part of the deposit forfeited because of the violations. Ryan went back to couch surfing. The apartment she had declared non-negotiable was gone. I did not celebrate. I did not feel triumphant. I just felt confirmed. When someone makes unilateral decisions in a shared life, they often confuse control with stability. But control without agreement does not create safety. It just speeds up the consequences. About a month after that, I met someone, not as a rebound, not because I was trying to prove anything, just through normal life. Her name was Maya. She was 28 and worked in healthcare administration. She moved into the unit across the hall from my studio. Our first conversation was about a package delivered to the wrong door. The second was about coffee. What stood out first was not chemistry. It was tone. Nothing with her felt like a power play. No testing boundaries. No trying to see what I would tolerate. Just calm adult conversation. A few weeks into seeing each other casually, she asked me what happened in my last relationship. I told her the truth in one sentence. My ex made a major living decision without discussion, so I removed myself. Maya paused and said, "That makes sense." That was it. No eye roll, no speech about insecurity. No effort to talk me into doubting my own boundary. That reaction felt strangely new. One night while we were cooking at her place, her own ex came up naturally. She mentioned he had reached out recently and asked if she wanted to grab coffee. Then she said, "I told him no. It didn't feel respectful to where I am now." Just like that. Calm, clean, no performance, no speech about being evolved enough to handle complicated emotional overlaps. Just a boundary. That was when I realized how tense I had been for a long time without even knowing it. You do not always notice the stress until you finally step into something that does not require you to brace for impact. A little later, Maya asked if I would ever consider getting a bigger place when my 6-month lease ended. Notice the phrasing. She asked. She did not announce. She did not assume. And when I said maybe, but we would need to talk it through properly when the time came, she nodded and said, "Of course." That one word said more about respect than all of Tara's speeches ever had. Meanwhile, through mutual circles, I heard Tara was staying with a friend. Ryan was out of the picture again. The apartment was back on the market. Non-negotiable had turned into non-renewable. I do not hate her. I do not regret leaving. If anything, I regret how close I came to staying just to prove I could handle it. Because here is the quiet truth. The moment someone tells you there is no discussion in a shared life, the discussion is already over. The only thing left is deciding whether you are going to remain there for the consequences. I did not. And for the first time in a long while, my home did not come with surprise roommates, hidden decisions, or a power struggle disguised as maturity. 6 months after I loaded my life into that truck, everything had settled. Meyer and I did not rush, no dramatic promises, no instant merging of lives, just steady weekends, shared groceries, and normal conversations about work, routines, and the future. When my studio lease came up for renewal, she asked again, "What are you thinking?" That was the whole question. So we sat at her kitchen table and actually discussed it. Budget. Location, commute, privacy. Expectations. It took 45 minutes. No one rolled their eyes. No one smirked. No one declared anything. We decided to sign a new place together. Bigger, neutral ground, both names on the lease, clear terms about finances. Simple adult things. Around that same time, I heard Tara had moved twice in 3 months. First to a friend's spare room, then to a smaller apartment farther out of downtown. Ryan resurfaced briefly, then disappeared again once money and responsibility came back into the picture. The landlord had already relisted the old unit and put in new tenants. Clean slate. Then one afternoon, I got a message request on LinkedIn. It was from Tara, just one short line. "I miscalculated. I thought you'd stay." That was all. No apology. No real ownership. Just a quiet admission that she had assumed I would adjust, negotiate, tolerate, and remain. And that had always been the core of it. She did not think I would leave. She thought I would argue, maybe sulk, maybe resist for a day or two, but ultimately stay in place while she arranged the rest. She thought non-negotiable only worked in one direction. But the moment she said there was no discussion, she removed the only thing that makes shared living possible. Agreement. I did not fight her decision. I matched it. She said he's moving in. I said neither is my departure, and that was that. Because non-negotiable is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is a truck loaded on Thursday night. It is paperwork signed without hesitation. It is keys returned without a speech. It is someone watching from the window thinking you are bluffing while you remove yourself from the room entirely. I was not bluffing. And in the end, the only thing truly non-negotiable was reality. Rent comes due. Leases get enforced. People either qualify or they do not. And when someone tells you there is no discussion, sometimes the only answer is to stop living inside their decision and start living inside your own. That is the kind of choice real life respects. There are a few clear lessons in this story. Lesson 1: if someone makes a major decision about your shared home without asking you, that is not partnership. That is control. Lesson 2: a calm boundary is still a boundary. You do not need to yell to mean it. Lesson 3: helping someone is a choice. Forcing that choice onto your partner is disrespect. Lesson 4: when people count on your silence more than your agreement, they are not trusting you. They are using your patience. Lesson 5: real stability is built through discussion, not declarations. Lesson 6: sometimes the healthiest move is not to fight for your place in the room. It is to leave the room entirely. What would you have done if your partner told you their ex was moving in and there was no discussion? And do you think Daniel made the right choice by walking away immediately, or would you have handled it differently?